Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new season over here at the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast made for fans by fans, and all their content is absolutely free. Brought to you tonight by our sponsors over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. We are live on YouTube this evening, folks. You can get us over on Twitter at Gersnet Online, and we do encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel as well. You can also get us over on the website at gersnet.co.uk, where you've got access to the forum, some great articles, and a wonderful history archive as well. Joining me tonight, stalwart, Mr. Colin Armstrong. Colin, how are you feeling ahead of the new season?
Been here many times before, Craig. So yeah, I'll say what I say most years. Quietly optimistic.
That's all you can be, I suppose. Joined also tonight by Mr. Ross Bennett, another Gersnet veteran. How you doing, Ross? How are you feeling ahead of the new season?
I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling pleased. It's been a long summer. I'm ready to go again. I'm feeling, I don't know if I would say quietly confident or optimistic, but maybe naively so. Because like Colin says, we've been here before, but I'm willing to believe that we're going to have a good year.
Yeah, well, it's going to have to happen at some point, so why not now? Obviously, we played Middlesbrough yesterday in our last, I think, pre-season friendly. It's a bit weird playing your last friendly sort of like at the end of July, but it is what it is with the Champions League qualifiers. Colin, I don't know if you managed to get across to the game yesterday, because I remember you saying that you don't really do the friendlies when we're off air, but the starting 11 came out. I was a wee bit surprised, just in the sense that I thought he might have went with the same team for the Panathinaikos game, perhaps maybe with Gassama coming in, just to sort of keep like the guys sort of ticking over and whatnot. But obviously gave a couple of the young guys a chance. Hutton, Gentles, and Bailey Rice get another chance as well. So, what did you make of the lineup and the overall performance?
I mean, yeah, I didn't go to the game yesterday. I watched it on Rangers TV, and when I seen the team, I was sort of cursing spending $7.99 for it. To be honest with you, I was like, so I was genuinely quite surprised at the team. I was a bit like yourself. I thought, given the game on Tuesday night there, and we've obviously got the return leg on Wednesday coming. I thought more players would have been given a run. I mean, obviously those players did get a run out towards the end, but I was slightly surprised at the starting lineup. But I mean, in terms of the overall performance, I don't think we started very well. I thought Middlesbrough were pretty good actually. The first half, I thought they were really good. I did wonder if, I don't know how Rangers select opponents when it comes to friendlies and stuff like that, but I did wonder the way that Middlesbrough were pressing in that first half, as if Martins had selected them. You know what I mean? To get this team used to dealing with the press and playing the way that he wants to play. And we struggled with it. I mean, I thought we were getting past the initial press, but when it was getting into the midfield, we were losing it there. I thought in that first half, Connor Barron was really guilty. He either giving it away or being caught in possession. So I think we were beating the initial press and then getting sort of stuck in the middle of the park, and we just couldn't get out. But I mean, it's a lot of young boys in that team. When you look at the lineup, it's not the sort of team you would expect to start. Obviously at Motherwell on Saturday or even on Wednesday night. So we did struggle, and it felt a bit downbeat, and the standard of the goals we conceded as well, I thought were really poor. 2 set pieces that weren't defended well at all. But the last sort of 35 minutes, once he made the changes, again, one of the biggest criticisms is Clement, certainly from my perspective, is I never got a sense of what he was trying to do. I just felt he tended to rely on his big players to give him big moments. Already you can see what Russell Martin's trying to do. You can see patterns he play. You can see what the players are trying to do. It's not quite working at times, but you can definitely see that this team is coached into a particular way of playing. And when when the more experienced players came on, it was night and day, and we got the 2 goals back, and overall, I thought it was a worthwhile exercise, and it gives you a lot, especially the last half hour. It gives you a bit of hope going into Wednesday night and for a big game against Panathinaikos. So, it wasn't edgy your seat stuff. Friendlies are always like that. I find them a bit tedious at times. I think it's more. I think friendlies are more for the coaches and players and stuff like that. As a spectator sport, I think they're a struggle at times, to be honest with you. Obviously, it gives you an opportunity to see the new players as well. But overall, first half not so good, second half really good. And as I said, I definitely can see patterns of play. I can see a system, a style that Russell Martin wants to play, and that gives me a little bit of hope for the future. You know what I mean? Because last season, I really didn't enjoy going to Ibrox at all. The football was turgid. The atmosphere was a bit poisonous at times. It would be good to go to Ibrox knowing you're going to be entertained. And from what I've seen so far, I think that could be the case.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely edge of your seat stuff for the guy, Scott, excuse me, that sits next to me, because he whacked a tenner on us when we were 2-0 down at 45-1. So I don't know. I mean, to be fair, he got up to a decent cash out, but then with like 10 minutes to go, he was like, "Oh, I'll just let it run and see what happens." So at least that gave us a wee bit of entertainment for for some of it. But no, I think you made a good few points there, Colin. Ross, Colin mentioned it there about the first half. One of the things, and maybe I'm possibly being overcritical here of Russell Martin, is that the 3 games that we've seen in the flesh with this team, the first half in particular has not been good. Now, I don't know if that's maybe the way that he is setting up, or if he's maybe been a wee bit cautious at the start, and then the players are just sort of growing into it. But is that something that you can maybe see as a sort of concern going forward, or do you think it's just pre-season and that's maybe why?
I think so. Martin spoke, I think, after both Bruges and Panathinaikos. He spoke about the team falling into old habits, and he had to get them in at half time to regroup them, and I think give them a bit of a talking to. And I wonder, one of the things that we saw from Southampton fans was that Russell Martin has this style, and it takes time. It will take time for these players to get it, and I wonder if players are going out. And I thought, to be fair, I thought the first half against Panathinaikos we were really poor, really difficult to watch actually a lot of the time. And I wonder if all of this work that's gone on in preseason's only been like 4 weeks long, and a lot of that will have been fitness before you then start to look at the tactical side. So I wonder if it's taken these players a bit of time naturally to get used to what is clearly quite an intricate, complex, and maybe even academic style of football. And it's like perhaps Martin is trying to drill all of this into them, and then they get out on the pitch and quickly revert into old habits, and it takes him getting them back in at half time and giving them a talking to for them to actually, I don't know, start playing the way he wants them to play. I think yesterday with that starting 11, I mean, he made 11 changes from the Panathinaikos game, and actually I'm the opposite to Colin. I expected it to be not at all similar to the lineup from last Tuesday or the coming Wednesday, because I think he'll want to rest them as much as possible. So I'm not surprised at having a weak first half or a weak first 60 minutes, because ultimately it was a weak team. I think it's pointed out a couple of areas where we are particularly weak. I think this is a work in progress, this team. I think there's clearly still a few areas on the pitch where we will strengthen. I think left back is absolutely one of them. We're currently playing, I think we'll probably, and I'm sure we'll talk about Panathinaikos later, but we'll probably see Aaron's playing left back again whilst Tav goes right back, just because Tav playing at right back is preferable to Jeffrey or Ridvan at left back. So I think we saw that yesterday, that there's a real lack of depth still in the squad. One or two players that let themselves down. Martin called that out after the game as well. I thought was interesting to see. But yeah, it's just a bit odd us playing a preseason. I can't get used to us playing a preseason friendly in the midst of a 2-legged European tie. It just doesn't feel right to me.
I know. and more money for us fans to spend as well going to it. So at least you can rack up the managers' points every cloud and all that. Be more like Oscar, Colin. That was the words for Russell Martin yesterday. I don't think a lot of us would have been expecting to hear that maybe at some points last season. He was one of the players yesterday, but he mentioned his work rate. To be fair, I thought he did, and he has worked hard the sort of couple of games that you have seen him. But the end product yesterday from him was pretty poor. Thought it was interesting that despite him being the only sort of fully fit winger, he still didn't start him against Panathinaikos, and he opted for Curtis and Dill. I don't know with him. I mean, you know, he had when he first came out, Oscar Cortez, he looked great. Then the injury at Kelly, it's almost as if it's just completely ruined his career. But he's a player that's here now. Apart from his work rate yesterday, for me, he didn't really do anything that would convince you that he's going to be a player. There's another sort of couple of guys as well, you know, that get a run out and you're thinking, well, are these people really going to be part of the plans? On the positive side, though, you've got Finlay Curtis after a great goal last midweek. Scored another one yesterday, so that'll definitely be doing his confidence all the best. And it's kind of two completely different goals. Obviously, a complete worldie last week, and then a bit of a scrappy one today. So it's showing a wee sort of different side to his game as well, which I think is good. But were there any sort of individual performances yesterday that you want to pick up on, either positively or negatively?
I mean, I'm with you on the Cortez thing. I was really surprised that Martin highlighted him for praise in the sort of post-match presser. That said, you know, when you're watching it I was watching on my laptop, you know, it was hard to see, you know, if his work rate off the ball and all that kind of stuff. But when he did get the ball, I thought the quality was poor, really poor. You know, his final ball was poor. He never really, you know, stretched the defence. But I mean, I've seen enough from Russell Martin to have confidence in him and confidence in his opinion and point of view. So if he's seen something that I'm not, then I'm happy to go with that. He must think that Oscar Cortez is going to offer something at some point. But I genuinely thought it was poor yesterday. But you know, he showed signs when he first came in the door that he looked like a decent player. Hopefully, I'll get back to that. I thought Connor Barron struggled yesterday, especially in that first half. I thought he was either getting, as I said earlier on, either getting caught in possession or the one who was, you know, when we were trying to play between the lines and get out from that press, you know, he was the one that was giving it away. I thought he struggled a wee bit yesterday. One who impressed me was Cameron. I was really impressed when he came on. I'm not one for watching sports scene for obvious reasons, but I did go out my way the last couple of weeks of the season last season, because we'd already signed him, to watch sports scene, to have a wee look at him on the highlights for Dundee games. And I like to look at him there, and I thought we might have actually found someone, and it convinced me yesterday. I thought we got more out of Dowell yesterday on that right hand side than we did Cortez, and I thought a big part of that was Cameron. I thought that, you know, he was playing him in and putting him in good positions. So yeah, that's the sort of three. I'll take my medicine a wee bit where Cortez is concerned, because, you know, obviously Russell Martin seems to rate him and thinks that there's something there, and he's got the right attitude and the right mentality for the way he wants to play. I think Connor Barron, I mean, he started really well last season. He kind of fell away, and he's really struggled since. And, you know, although these friendlies to supporters are kind of meaningless, for guys that are on the periphery of the side, these are your time to shine. These are the time when you get an opportunity to make the manager question his judgment, and to make him think, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should be starting this guy on Wednesday, or maybe I should be starting him on Saturday. And I don't think Connor Barron done that yesterday. I don't think he done enough. So yeah, that's, I mean, as I said earlier on, that's kind of what the friendlies are for. I think, you know, I mean, I think the coaching staff and the manager and the players get more out of them than supporters do. But in terms of performances, those are the sort of three main ones. I thought Cortez and I'm having a brain freeze. Barron were poor, and I thought the boy Cameron was really good. I really like the look of him, and I think he might surprise us this season. I think he might get more game time than a lot of people think he's going to get.
I hope so. He does look a decent player, Lyle Cameron. You know, but maybe it's one of these ones where the deal was already done. You don't really know if he's going to be a Russell Martin type player, because he was obviously signed before he came in, and it could just be one of these ones where the manager maybe doesn't fancy him that much, but he's kind of got to go with it because he's obviously in the door. But he certainly done himself really well yesterday. Like you, Colin, I thought he put in a good performance. Lots of nice touches, and you can see certainly what the previous regime saw in him. Kind of like, I don't know, there's a wee bit of like a sort of Scott Arfield type thing in him, in the sense that I think he'll be really good at making those sort of runs into the box, if you know what I mean. But I think he's quite skillful as well, which is actually quite rare for a Scottish midfielder.
I also think he's quite an intelligent player. I thought the positions he took up, you know what I mean, he was always in space, and 9 times out of 10, I thought when he got the ball, he used it well. And yeah, I mean, obviously it's a friendly. There's a long way to go this season, but from what I saw of him to the tail end of last season, and what I saw of him yesterday, I like the look of the boy, I must admit.
No, definitely. I mean, Conor Barron, you mentioned there as well. I've always been a wee bit with him. I mean, he's decent enough. He's obviously Scottish, which helps. I do think he works really hard, which you need. You need guys like that in the team. I love that about him. But at the same time, if you're at the point of you're trying to make the team the most sort of utilised it can be, I'm maybe saying you've got Bailey Rice there, who's a youth player who'll be on probably, I don't know, 20% of his wages or something like that. And you're thinking, could you maybe get a fee in for Barron, basically elevate Bailey Rice's position to the position in the squad that Conor Barron's in? Because I think, to be honest, Conor Barron being here this season probably is going to slow down Bailey Rice's development, because I think Conor Barron is better than Rice at the moment. So the chances are any sort of places that are going to be up for grabs in cup games, like the one that we'll have next month, that'll probably go to Conor Barron. Ross, pre-season is over again, as we said, bizarrely in July. What's been your verdict on it from all that you could see?
Hard to say, really, because I think every pre-season game, and if I include Panathinaikos at home in that, every pre-season game we've demonstrated a very, very slow start, but then we've kind of finished each game really strongly, and I think that the managers echoed that. The managers talked a lot about how hard they've worked. I'm pleased to hear that, and I hope that that's the case, because I do feel at times that we last season demonstrated an unacceptable level of fitness. Actually, I felt that you could see certain players didn't have the legs, didn't have the physicality, didn't have the physical attributes that it took to succeed in Scotland. So I really, really hope that is the case. I think it's been a strange pre-season. I think the timing of everything, two not competitive games, but 2 games in front of a crowd, no real kind of no away games that the fans could go to, a couple of behind closed doors games against, I think, was it Hamilton and TNS. Slightly odd, I would put it down to. Obviously, there's also been a lot of turnover in the squad, a lot of new faces joining, and that in 1 or 2 cases probably taken longer than it should have done, and I wonder how disruptive that's been to the manager and his plans. But it almost feels like we've not had enough time. I've just been watching there the Lionesses, the England women's team have just won the Euros, and it's like that's last season's competition. Last season's competition is still going, whilst next season's competition we're already kind of in it. We've already played a competitive match, so it feels more rushed this year than I feel like it's been beforehand, and obviously that's by virtue of us going into a second qualifying round. But I feel in the 3 games that I've seen, I haven't seen as much of a unique, dedicated Russell Martin style as I maybe thought I would have done. Now, maybe that's me needing to manage my expectations and understand that it's not going to come that quickly. It is going to take some time. I'm pleased with the standard of opposition. I know that TNS and Hamilton is one thing, but actually Club Brugge and Middlesbrough, probably fairly good representatives of what we're going to come up against either domestically or in Europe. So I'm pleased with the standard of opposition. We got decent enough results against the 2 of them. We got a good result against Panathinaikos. So I shouldn't be too unhappy. I want to see some more signings though. I want to see some more in and some more out of the door. And I think that'll make a big difference in how we play.
Yeah, definitely. Football's never ending, and as much as we all love it, I mean, it's good to get a break for it sometimes. I mean, even that Club World Cup, I mean, that only stopped a week or 2 ago, so That is crazy. Colin, this isn't in the agenda, but I just randomly remembered it there. Russell Martin, yesterday, he was sent off at half time by a good friend, Mr. John Beaton, for remonstrating with him. I mean, I don't want to dig down the whole conspiracy hatchet in pre-season and stuff like that, but I mean, it was a definite penalty. It was right in front of him. I could see it from my seat. I think everyone in the stadium could see it, even the 8,000 Middlesbrough fans that were there. For whatever reason, he doesn't give it because it's John Beaton, but just really odd. And I mean, the camera went up on Russell Martin actually, like 30 seconds into the second half, and I was like, "Is he in the stand?" And I was going, I mean, that can't be right. 2 games in, he's like Ibrox thing, and he already thinks he's Walter Smith sitting in the stand. But obviously, it wasn't until after the game that you find out the reasons behind it. I mean, John Beaton's John Beaton, isn't he? But I mean, I do like the fact that we've got a manager there who, even in pre-season, he clearly has standards and he's setting that example that he wants to win. I quite like that.
Yeah, but I mean, the whole thing's a farce. I mean, from the decision, I mean, the decision to not give that penalty is it's only a friendly, and there's no real damage done in terms of points or anything like that. But it is a worry because we've had issues with referees and decisions going against us over the last few years now, and you just kind of wonder if this is just another setting a base mark and a template for what we're going to expect in the future. Because I mean, his hand's as far away from his body as it can be. You know what I mean? He blatantly handballs it. Beaton's 10, 15 yards away, looking right at it, doesn't give it. And on the coverage on Rangers TV, you've seen Russell Martin going up the tunnel with John Beaton. Now, obviously, you don't know what's said. You're not there. But in terms of the body language, it looked more confused. He was like, what was that? Why did we not get a penalty there? Rather than angry or, abusive and stuff like that. Obviously, it may have escalated the further up the tunnel we've went. That's maybe something to do with Beaton's response. You know what I mean? Because I do think the standard of referees in this country is atrocious. But I mean, to send a referee to the stand in a friendly is it's just another level of stupidity. I mean, even at the level that I played, I only played amateur football, and if it was a friendly, and obviously this is a player and not a manager, but if a player had done something that was worthy of a red card, the referee would just say to the bench, right, sub him, get him off. So the player is kind of getting punished, but the team isn't, you know what I mean? And you keep 11 players on the park. So how it's ended up with Russell Martin sitting in the stand is staggering, you know what I mean? And I think back to what Ferguson said, Barry Ferguson, on the final day of last season in the game against Hibs, when he's asked about the goal that wasn't given. And was it Clancy that day? I think it was Clancy. Was it right?
There's that many bad referees in this country.
Yeah, I'm sure it was Clancy that day. And someone in the press had said to Barry, have you spoken to him? And Ferguson went, he'll not speak to me. You know what I mean? Just a pure, as if there's no point speaking to them. And I just wonder if far too many of the referees are like that. You know what I mean? To me, the referees are there to make decisions, but they're also there to explain them. And then you come to some sort of agreement or disagreement. I just get the impression that far too many referees in this country just put their hand up in a sort of talk to the hand sort of way, which obviously makes it more frustrating as a manager, as a player. If you're not getting an explanation as to why a decision's been made, then it's really, really frustrating. So it's only a friendly. There's no real, there's no drama in terms of consequences and stuff like that. But it is a worrying sort of template and precedent in terms of, is this what we're going to expect for the rest of the season? And I found it interesting that Martin sort of said in the press conference yesterday that you'll have to get used to how things work up here, which again you're kind of worrying as to, what does that mean? Why is a manager that's just in the door having to get used to how things work up here? So yeah, as I said, no major drama about it, but it is a slight concern.
No, definitely. I mean, John Beaton is one of those referees that you just know he's incredibly dismissive. I mean, do you remember the red card that Gerrard got at Livy a few seasons ago? But we won the league. It's just
his whole body language that night.
Yeah.
Someone retweeted that yesterday on the back of what had happened, and his whole body language. He really is. The word you use is correct. Dismissive. He's just not interested in anything Gerrard's got to say. And that's what makes Steven Gerrard react. He's like, well, I'm trying to put my point across. You're not listening to me. He gets booked, and then literally 10 seconds later, the red card comes out. You know what I mean? And that's, to me, that whole incident was down to beating. You know what I mean? He just couldn't deal with anyone sort of questioning his judgment and his decision, which, if you're a referee, that's what you've got to do. All of the best referees I've ever played with always explained their decision. And see, when they done it, you really had nowhere to go. You just had to accept it. What made it really frustrating was the referees that just ignored you, put their hand up, get away from me, get away from me. You're like, well, you're not giving me a reason as to why you've came to that decision. So it feels that far too many referees up in this country are like that. They just put the hand up, not interested, not listening. So yeah, Russell Martin will need to get used to that.
No common sense. And that was another thing that really annoyed me yesterday as well. Forget the red card. 3 minutes of added time in a friendly. I mean, come on, we're trying to get to the pub. Stop eating into valuable drinking time here. Beating, come on. But it's just like you mentioned it there, like if in friendlies, if a guy does something with a red card, just sub him. Like common sense things to do. It's like, why are you adding three added minutes on in a friendly? Just the 90 minutes are up, just get on with it. But yeah, it's a strange country we live in. We should try and revoke his match fee or something like that. I don't know, but do some form of punishment for making the wrong decisions. But we'll move on anyway. Ross, you mentioned transfers earlier. We had an official announcement yesterday that finally Robin Propper's left. Seen he actually put up a pretty nice post on Instagram earlier on today. I mean, let's be honest, he was never suited for Scottish football, for Rangers. He's always got that goal against Celtic at New Year, to be fair to him, so well done for that. But kind of glad that he's gone. By all accounts, a nice enough guy, but I think Russell Martin mentioned that yesterday. It's no personal. It's just a professional thing. So he's gone. What's your thoughts on that? And are you hoping to see a lot more out the door as well, and what ones in particular?
Yeah, Robin Propper, I think it's a great shame because it's kind of the markets that we were all saying we should be going and looking in, going and buying players from the Netherlands or Belgium or places where there's maybe a bit of value. So he also, looked the part, decent enough CV, continental European defender. We've done well with Dutch defenders in the past, to be fair. So on paper, really good signing, and it's
Ross? I would question that. Anyway.
I've just done centre halves that scored against Celtic, and that's all I'm remembered for.
I think we've done. Hold on, we've done well with Dutch. We've done well with Dutch defenders.
Have we? Well, anyway, I'm just. Right.
I
just think he caught him. But
where was Arthur Newman from? Cameroon.
Okay. I'll give you that one.
Right. So I think I thought it was a good signing, and it's another one of those things where it's like just a classic example of football's played on grass, not on paper. Because on paper, Philippe Clement was the right guy, and Gio was a good appointment, and on paper, Robin Propper was a good signing. But it never worked, did it? I mean, let's be fair, I don't think he ever looks comfortable in Scotland, or to be fair, playing in Europe. He was never comfortable. Whether I don't know, was that the shirt was too heavy for him? I don't think so. I just don't think it clicked. I don't think it ever really worked. As you say, Craig scored against Celtic, so that'll do for me. He's a good man, I'm sure.
To be fair, he nearly missed that as well, though, didn't he?
He cut it sort of right back across the goal.
He had the whole goal to aim it and just put it right, just at that very spot. You know what I mean? I was right behind it, and I was up off my seat, and I was like, oh. Yeah.
But I'm, that'll be a moment he'll never forget, and I am sure he would have been a big earner on the wage bill. So, one of those. Right decision for all parties, and away you go, Robin. A few more that need to go out the door. I think it's absolutely clear that neither Ridvan nor Jefty should be playing left back for this football club. I think we were all very polite to Jeffy for a long time last season, going, "No, he's raw, but there's something there." I don't think there's anything there. I really don't. I don't think he's the man at all. So, as I said earlier, we're playing our right back at left back in order to cover for those two. And I felt that made us weaker against Panathinaikos. I thought that Aaron's struggled at left back. So we need those two out the door, in my opinion, and someone to come and replace them. I think the striker is a really interesting question because, again, on paper, Igamani and Dessers have enough goals in them to lead the Rangers line next season. And yet, I think we'd all probably be disappointed if the window closes in a few weeks' time and they're both still here. Both could fetch us a bit of money, or well, Igamani certainly, I'm sure, could. Dessers is a high earner, so financial rewards to getting them both gone. I don't think we'll bring anyone in up front until one of those leaves, and I think that obviously for Dessers there was the interest in him from AEK Athens that seems to have just never materialised, or maybe the offer wasn't high enough. Igaman, I think. I'm surprised no one's come in and taken a punt on him. I'm surprised no one from Italy, obviously was it Nice that they were talking about, or Lille, someone in France that were interested in him. I am surprised that a European club's not come, but I don't think we'll be signing someone up front until one of those two leaves, and I think we'll all be probably a little nervous. Igaman's a really interesting one. He had an interesting season. You know, was injured at the start of it. I wasn't up to speed at the start. Had a bit of a purple patch. Drifted in and out of our season, I would say, at times. Dessers has been spoken enough about, and I don't need to go into that anymore. But I just feel I would like one of them gone, and I would like someone else in as a different option to replace.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting with both of them because, look, I think with Egaman, we don't know what's going to be going on in his head in terms of, from what we've been told, he's already basically accepted some offer from Lille. Whether that's allowed or no, don't need to get into it. But, at the end of the day, that just seems to be the reality of it. So if he's already agreed a deal basically elsewhere, he's obviously a young guy, he'll have ambitions. Is it really worth sort of keeping him around? Like, will he be okay mentally? I mean, he might be incredibly strong mentally. He might just get on with things and be really good and have that attitude, and it would be great if he does, but you don't know about it. I actually think it's the opposite with Dessers. I genuinely do think that Dessers isn't the type of guy he turn around and say, well, I've had an offer from somewhere else and he's going to try and force a move. I do think with Dessers that you will get 100% commitment, which I do like about him. And the thing with Dessers as well is, to me, there's no point in selling him unless you get like a decent bid. I'm talking like 4.5, 5 million quid. I think what we're told, Athens bid something like 2 million quid for him. Now, as much as he divides opinion and all that, he's a 20-odd goal a season striker. You can't buy a 20-odd goal a season striker for 2 million, or it's incredibly difficult to do that. So, yeah, he can bring us in a wee bit of money, but you still need to think of what you're going to lose if you do lose Dessers. And for me, I would really only be punting him if you get an offer that's for his actual value. And I know he's 30 and stuff like that, but at the same time, he's coming into his prime. If he can do a turn for a team for 2 or 3 seasons, it'll be 5 million quid well spent, Ross.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Dessers' fair market value for us is around the 4 million mark at this point, I would say. I just have one more thing I'd like to say. Fernando Rickson was a Dutch defender who done okay for us.
But the team will do okay when they get moved into the midfield, though.
He was a defensive-minded midfielder. Giovanni van Bronckhorst, we played him left back, did we know, before he... Or was he a midfielder?
He was a left midfielder. He went to left back when he went to Arsenal.
Right. But he
Frank
picked up
de Boer,
those skills.
you could say Frank de Boer, but
Frank de Boer. That's what I meant all along.
He was only there 6 months. You know what I mean?
What 6 months? So
it was. Aye. We finished third that year.
Oh, brilliant! Brilliant. Well, hopefully we do sign a couple of decent Dutch defenders just so that it can make Colin maybe a wee bit more polite towards him. Speaking of players, Colin, Ben Davies is another one that's just come off the top of my head. Even Kieran Dill, I know he's been playing. Cifuentes, Matondo, there's guys there that you genuinely forget are Rangers players that are all high earners. We're in a bit of a predicament though, because at the same time as we're all saying we should get rid of these guys, you know, obviously teams aren't coming in for them, otherwise they wouldn't be here. So what do you do with them? I mean, Cifuentes, could he maybe do so? I mean, maybe, but I couldn't see him being a big player. Ben Davies, I genuinely never want to see him in a Rangers jersey again, ever. No, even in any training gear or anything like that. Just do whatever you can to get rid of that guy. Even like Ravi Matondo, I mean,
he's no Bert Connerman, let's be honest.
Well, nah, I mean, he's Connerman's better than him. I mean, did Connerman not get capped by the Dutch team?
He did, aye. Anyway,
You couldn't have been that
I digress.
But even the likes of Matondo, and I mean, we're led to believe that he's injured, so that's why he's not been in the European squad and stuff like that. I mean, Ravi Matondo, in an ideal world, you would get rid of him, but at the same time, if he is here, I think he has shown enough glimpses in the past to say that he could somewhat contribute. Not saying he should be starting every week, but I mean, if you're crying out for a winger in a game, maybe bringing him on with 10, 15 minutes to go if you need a goal or something like that, because it's a tough decision that the manager is going to have to make, Colin, if we can't get rid of these guys, because what on earth are you going to do with all of them?
I mean, I think we have to remember where we are in the window, and I think, as is always the case, a lot of this stuff gets done towards the end, especially, I think, when it comes to players who aren't featuring in squads and stuff like that. Clubs that are interested will maybe hold out because the price will drop. The club that wants to offload will then start to be prepared to accept a little bit less in order just to get them out the door. So it's the thing that frustrates me most about the transfer window. I am old school. I preferred it back in the day when you needed a left back. No matter what time of year it was, you just went out and signed a left back, and that was it. The transfer window. I've never got it. It is what it is, but it's not for me, and it just means the business. You tend to find a lot of the business doesn't get done until the last 2 or 3 days, because that's when obviously the clock's ticking, time's running out. Clubs want deals to happen, and therefore prices drop or prices go up or whatever it is to get things through the door. So I think most of these players we're talking about will go because they won't want to hang about. You know what I mean? If they're not going to get game time. Unless they're on, unless they're one of the higher earners, they're not going to want to hang about and not play. So I think most of these players will go out the door, but it just means you're going to be doing a lot of business in the final sort of week or so in the window to get players out and get other players in, all that kind of stuff. It would be good if we could I think if we are going to get any money for Ingerman, it would be good to get that done as soon as possible, because that frees up some money in terms of bringing other players in. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be done. I'm with Ross, left back needs dealt with. I also think obviously we're linked with Cody. I think we need another centre half as well. And I think the number 9 thing's up for grabs for me, because Ingerman, hot and cold, Dessers is Dessers. You know what I mean? We've all spoke about him, and I'm just, he's had a good pre-season, Danilo, but I'm just. I don't know. And I don't know if any of those fit the sort of profile that Martin's looking for in a striker. You know what I mean? Because he's obviously looking for a mobile front three, a front three that's going to press. I know Ross was saying earlier on that he's not seen enough of the way Russell Martin plays and how we've played so far. You know what I mean? But I have definitely seen wee snippets. And one of the things I think Rangers have been doing in the games that I've watched them is trying to win the ball higher up the pitch. You know what I mean? They're trying to press teams and get the ball higher up the pitch, and that's why we've been caught out a couple of times with just straight balls over the top, because we've got such a high line, all that kind of stuff. We're squeezing the park. So to me, if he's going for a number 9, he's looking for someone that's mobile, someone that can run and press. I mean, there's someone, I know he's 38 and all the rest of it, but someone like Jamie Vardy would fit that bill. You know, a player like that, someone who scores goals and can run, you know, till next Tuesday, so to speak. I'm not sure Dessers fits that bill. I'm not sure Igaman fits that bill, and I'm not sure Danilo fits that sort of profile either. I think we're looking for different types of strikers. So yeah, obviously we need to get players out the door first, but yeah, we'll see what comes. But I'm not convinced that any of the three strikers that we have at the club are ones that Russell Martin will want to be there.
Yeah, see, to be honest, even if you are playing one striker, I still think four maybe be a bit greedy and get another one. I'm not saying that they need to be a sort of £5 or £6 million player, but you know, just someone to chip in. You know, I think the last time we won the league, we had Defoe and Ruth Morelos, so and they all chipped in with big goals. So I mean, maybe Josh Gentles can be that guy calling it up. You never know. Russell Martin really seems to like this guy. He's name checked him a couple of times, and he's looked all right. But again, it's one of the ones where it's too early to tell. Do you know what I mean? I've not seen enough of him to have an opinion on him either way.
Yeah, I think. I mean, one I would like to see come through the door is Miovski. I like him. I've always kind of liked him when he was at Aberdeen.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, I think we would need a decent wedge of cash to get him through the door. But someone like him, you know, someone who's really, really mobile, who does a lot of running, can score you between, you know, 20, 25 a season, but also does the other stuff, who presses, who helps that front three win the ball high up the park and turn us from a team that's defending into one that's attacking. But yeah, we'll need to see. I'm not convinced that any of the three that are on the books at the moment are the sort of striker that Russell Martin's looking for.
No, I think Danilo as well. I've never really seen him as a lone striker. I think when he had his sort of best performances, because it's always when he sort of played off someone in a sort of weird number 10 kind of position. Like him and Egeman worked okay together sort of last Christmas round about that time. And I just think that if you're going to play Danilo, he's more of an impact player. I think he had a pretty decent record at Feyenoord before he came to us, but if you looked at most of his goals, they were coming from the bench. And to be fair, I do always maintain that you need sort of these auxiliary players, if you know what I mean, to actually win your leagues. I think every team's got guys like that, but yeah, we'll need to wait and see.
I think for the fee that we paid for him, we'd be looking for more than that. You know what I mean?
No,
you know, 6 million.
I know. No,
Yeah.
you're right. But again, it's just, it is what it is, and maybe just trying to make the best of a bad situation. It's one of those ones where, you know, it's done. Obviously, if you're spending, £6 million on a guy, for us, he should be starting every week, scoring loads of goals, being the best player. But you know, it is what it is. We can't change the fee, unfortunately. But Ross, you mentioned sort of player profiles earlier. One guy that we've been linked with, coming in earlier today, Oliver Antman. What a wonderful name. Finnish international right winger. We have also been linked with Raksaki of Crystal Palace. I think they might be looking for about £10 million, which would be a chunkable investment. But surprise, surprise, he got injured a few days ago in a friendly. Don't know if that's serious or not. But in terms of this Antman guy, I mean, I don't know if you're a go-ahead Eagles super fan or anything like that, or you've seen much of him. But on paper, I know we mentioned it earlier, but you know, he looks decent enough. But I do just wonder if he's maybe being looked at as a sort of replacement for Raksaki or to complement him. I would hope it's to complement someone like him at least.
Yeah, I think it could well be. You know, I think a lot of that will depend on what Russell Martin sees as a role for Oscar Cortez this season. I know we've spoken about him a wee bit, but I'd say we're quite light in the wide areas at the minute. Obviously, we've not had a great amount of exposure to Gassama yet, but I think at least one more needs to come in. Raksaki's interesting. I know we tried to get him a year ago, this window last year, on loan. I think that fell through for whatever reason late on. Looking at Oliver Antman, you know, Go Ahead Eagles, I think, got promoted out of the second tier in the Netherlands last season, so they're playing Eredivisie football this season. probably a comparable league to ours. So I sometimes worry, would a player want to leave that division to come to Scotland? But I think with the Netherlands, it's probably not such a concern. He's 23 years old. He's played, looking at the stats here, he's played a good 150 games, top flight games, from starting in Finland, then moving over to Denmark with Nordsjælland, and then over to Holland a couple of years ago. So 23 years old, 6'1", plays on the wing. It's probably what we need. I think Russell Martin is going to want on the wings. He's going to want players that can get the ball, run with it, take a man on, beat him, and make something happen. And it's something that we've sorely lacked. I feel that we've not had a lot of luck because, again, Rabbi Matondo should have been that player. Rabbi Matondo, by all accounts, was someone who was skillful with a ball at his feet and could beat a man. It just never really happened. So, 22 caps for Finland, 7 goals. So he's, again, that's been an issue of ours, is it's not enough players contributing, chipping in with goals outside of the forward line. So we need to replace Czerny. Let's be fair. Czerny scored a great deal of goals for us last season. Now, Gassam has come in and scored immediately 6 minutes into his debut or something, so that's a good sign. But I think this is I would love to sit here and say, actually, no, I've followed this guy since his TIPS days back in 2017. I've never heard of him until this report's come out. The Daily Record is suggesting that this is going to be done in the next 24 to 48 hours. The deal has been agreed between the two clubs. Happy days. Obviously, a wee bit late for him to join us out in Greece. However, I think it looks like a good signing.
Yeah. You mentioned Cherny there, Ross, and replacing him. There has been a wee bit of a debate going on online about, fans wanting to bring him back. And let's say we do have 10 million quid to spend on a winger. Would you, if you were in charge, rather go for someone like Raksaki or a similar player to that in terms of age, etc., or Cherny, who I think he's just turned 28 or about to turn 28? If you were in charge of spending the dough, what would your decision be on that one?
It's a good question. I really liked Cherny. I must admit, I thought Cherny was a special player. I preferred him to Sima, for example, that we had the year before. But if we are going to be, we've not heard much from the new board, and if player trading is going to be, one of their pillars, as the previous lot puts it. But if we're going to be talking about player trading and trying to turn a profit, you'd have to take a punt on a Raksaki, I think, and believe that there could be more sell-on value down the line, punting him back to England a few years later. But that being said, it's very difficult to look past. Cherny must have scored, 12, 15 goals for us last season. Crucial goals, good goals, plenty of assists. I liked him. Do I think he's worth 10 million? I don't know. I don't think, you say that would be our most expensive signing since Tory Andre Flo. I don't see us spending 10 million on anyone, quite frankly. I don't think Cherny's worth 10 million. And I don't know enough about this Raksaki to say if he is or isn't.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair with Cherny, I think that's one of those ones where if it was going to sign, it would have probably happened by now because there doesn't seem to be any movement on him. I do think he probably would have stayed. He did seem to be fairly settled here and happy. And it was obviously really, consistent. He said it was the most consistent that he'd been. Maybe it's just Russell Martin doesn't fancy him. But Colin, I'll pose the same question to you, mate. What would you be doing in that situation?
In terms of spending 10 million on Cherny,
or someone like Raksaki who you can develop, and I mean there would be higher selling value down the line, but obviously he's a unknown quantity.
I mean, when you look at the player trading model, or the proposed player trading model, and bringing in players in and developing them and selling them on. So essentially, if you're going to, snapshot that, it's buy cheap and sell high. Buy young, cheap, and sell high. I tend to think you do need a little bit of stardust in a team. So if predominantly your trading model is you're bringing in young players who you're going to develop, and obviously you'll have a couple of experienced ones in there, then if you know you've looked at the player, you've done your due diligence, and you're fairly confident that at some point further down the line, you know, the worst you'll do is get your 10 million back, then yeah, I think sometimes every now and again you've got to do that. You've got to you know, speculate to accumulate and all that kind of stuff. It's not something I would want to see Rangers doing consistently, if you know what I mean, just consistently going out and obviously we couldn't anyway. But if the proposed, because we've heard about this for so long, this sort of player trading model, if this way of doing business that the new board is talking about, or the new owner, sorry, materialises and we're bringing in players young, developing them, selling them on, and the players that are coming in are being successful, you know, we're winning trophies, we're doing well in Europe, and the turnover's increasing, and you're getting good money in for the players that you're selling, then yeah, I think it's okay to sort of say, right, okay, we've seen some player, someone like a Cherny, you know, that will really add to the team, and almost certainly we'll get more than that for them when they move on. Then yeah, but you genuinely have to be careful, because what we've been really guilty in the past is, you know, when we signed Ryan Kent, we'll still make a profit on him, walked out the door for nothing. When we signed Hadji, we'll make a profit on him, it only cost us 2 million, we'll develop him and sell him on, walked out the door for nothing. You know what I mean? So you have to stick to the principles that you've put in place. So if you don't do that, then you're out of pocket. And that's kind of how we ended up in the sort of situation we were. We were buying players and not selling them on. You know what I mean? We had a couple of opportunities to get money in for Morelos, didn't quite happen. You know what I mean? Even Kamara, you know, to let him go for the money that he went for, and then literally a season later he went for double that. Yeah, we've missed out on, you know, recouping a lot of money on some of the players in the past. So you need to stick to, you need to, I think this is something Celtic are really good at. They're ruthless. The minute they get the sniffy decent money for a player, he's out the door. That's it, gone. And they'll bring someone else in. I think we've got to be a wee bit more like that. You know, we've got to just say, right, okay, Igaman would be a good opportunity to do it. You know, I think, you know, people are talking about 20 million and all that kind of stuff. I think if we get offered between 10 and 15, that player should be going, because it represents so much profit for you know, for what we paid for him. We've got between 16 and 20 goals out of him, and we get 10 million for him. That's hard to knock back, I think. You know what I mean? So I think as a club we need to be more ruthless when we get offered decent money for players. We need to have confidence. We need to have something in place that ensures we know we can replace that player like for like. We're going to get someone in who is of a similar quality and will do a similar job to the player that's just going, and that allows you to move them on. Because
Yeah,
we've lost so much in terms of potential transfer fees over the last few years.
I know, and I suppose all those ones have kind of get, you know, their own wee individual stories. Like, am I right in saying that Morelos bid? I think that was from Leo as well, but was that not sort of January 2020? Sort of when he was in his real red hot vein of form, and it was just unbelievable for that sort of 6 month period. But then at the same time, we were going for the league. Could you really have afforded? What message would it have sent out to sell your best player in January, all that sort of stuff? Or did we even have the confidence that we could replace him? So, I mean, I don't know. And even with Ryan Kent, I know he walked out the door for nothing, but I think if we did even get bids for him, you were talking about pretty much what we paid for him. Like, see, to be honest, I think with the likes of Kent and Morelos, maybe they just weren't as good as we thought they were. Like, because if you look at like where they've ended up, I mean, Kent, I think he's in America now. Morelos, I think he's doing okay for Santos now, but you would be thinking that these guys, when they did leave for nothing, they'd be going to pretty decent level clubs at like down south or whatnot, because they were good players coming into their prime years, available on a free. But just for whatever reason, you know, maybe they just weren't as good as we thought they were. But I don't know.
Well, I think with Morelos, we know what happened. You know what I mean? He's just went completely off the rails. Morelos. See that night, Morelos scored 2 in Rotterdam.
Yeah,
I remember celebrating the second goal with my son, and turning around and saying, "I'm going, we're going to get a fortune for this guy. He's unplayable." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
he was in such top form at that time. If you'd have said to me then that player would have walked out the door for nothing, I'd have laughed at you. And so that's a failing on the club's behalf.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we should have, especially when he started to play up. You know, under Gerrard, he was, you know, no turning up for training, coming back from Colombia overweight. That would have been the time then to say, you know what, if you get a half decent offer, take it and let him go.
No, I agree. But as you say, we'll just need to hope that some form of training model can kick in. And I do agree with you. I think, you know, every player's got a price, and as soon as you get an offer that's kind of around that, a decision needs to be made fairly quickly in the sense of, right, you're at the door. We should have a backup list of players, A, B, C, D, E. Bring in one of them. Try and get your best target. If you can't get that, keep going down until you get someone similar in. But hopefully we can see more of that training model develop this summer in the future windows. Just before we finish up, Ross, we do have another massive game this midweek. Obviously, the second leg in Greece. I think we'll do it. I think I can see it being like a drab sort of 0-0 game. Just sort of get the job done, and away you go. In terms of the team, though, can you see Russell Martin making any changes from last week's team that started?
No, I think the question mark would probably be, firstly, up top. Does Danilo keep his place? Danilo never really got any joy at all on Tuesday last week. I could see him starting Dessers. I think it's the kind of game that Dessers would thrive in, if I'm honest. He obviously got his goal out in Athens last season back in November. He does well for us on the European stage. He gets big goals in Europe, so I could see him popping Dessers in there if Dessers is fully fit. As the lone striker. I think there's a question to be had around who plays out wide as well. Is Gassama ready to start the game? And if so, who does he replace? And I hope the answer to that is Dowell as opposed to Curtis. Finlay Curtis, he struggled first half last week, but so did everyone else. So I wouldn't really hold that against him. I wouldn't mind seeing Curtis and Gassama both on the same pitch at the same time. Other than that, I think there won't be much change. Butland will be back in as number one. It will look fairly similar, I should think, as to how we finished the game yesterday. But as you say, you know, we should have enough here to not concede twice. So we should have enough to go and score. I think if we score early, the tie is done. I'm flying out on Tuesday morning. I cannot wait. I'm very excited. It's bloody hot there at the minute. So I don't know if you own any shares in sun cream companies, but if you don't, I'd buy some now because I'm about to surge that price through the roof. But it's a good city. It's a good place to go for football. I'm very much looking forward to it.
No, hopefully you have a good trip. And have you got a good record in European away games?
No. What have I seen?
Well,
right.
You know, wrap up your boarding pass. You're not going.
I think I've done only 8 or 9, and I can recall what have I seen us win. I think I've seen us beat Midtjylland in Denmark, and that might have been it. Aye, that might well be it. Actually, I don't have a good record at all. But I was at Porto when we got Porto. I won each draw. Morelos scored out there. That was a good result. So I think we'll be fine. I really do.
Yeah, no, I think they will be. I've actually got a no bad European record. I've seen a few wins, which is rare considering Rangers winning away from home in Europe up until like 5 years ago was just like a rare entity. But PSV, the one that we won, the one that we get gubbed in, was in Nice last year, Betis. So I think the only one two that we've lost would have been Man U, obviously a few months ago, and then Braga, the first leg will be lost 1-0, but we won the second leg, so I'll just count that as a win anyway. So, Colin, in terms of the stature of the game, I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory, but if we win this game or get through, we at least guarantee Europa League football, pot 1 of Europa League. I know some people might be a wee bit drawn to the Conference League because of the quality of teams that are in it, and you're thinking we would actually have a really good chance of maybe getting to the final and winning it, but I don't want to be in it. I've always said before, I want to be in the Champions League. Maybe it is too early for us to qualify, but I think if we get through, on paper we've got a decent draw, and then two legs against Benfica. I mean, we were decent against Benfica last season. We obviously played them 4 or 5 seasons ago as well. And Bruges, we played them obviously a few weeks ago as well. So, look, I want us to qualify for the Champions League, but at a very, very minimal level, Colin, we need to be in that Europa League, because for me, the Conference League just, I think it would be a bit of a disaster for Russell Martin if, he sort of got off to this thing you're losing. I think, especially after winning 2-0 last week, it'll be difficult for him to recover so early on if we go and get gubbed on Wednesday. But I'm confident we'll get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I hate to say this because it brings football down to that one thing that I hate, and that's money. It's, that's the reason you want to be in the Champions League. I mean, in terms of a football spectacle for supporters, for us, I mean, you only have to look at that last campaign to realise that what you're potentially getting into. You're getting into potential scuddings and paying £60 for the pleasure of sitting there to watch your team getting scudded. I am not a fan of the Champions League, I have to be honest with you. I think it's become too one-sided. It leans towards the bigger clubs, obviously, but if we're going to sort of bridge that financial gap between us and Celtic, then obviously we need to try and get into it. I'm going to disagree with you both. I don't think this tie's done by any stretch of the imagination. I think the first goal on Wednesday will be crucial. I think the thing that you talked about there, Ross, could come into play, and that's the heat. I mean, that could have a real factor in this. So, and it's also, I mean, Rangers have been really, really good away for Europe in recent years and playing a certain way. Obviously, we've got a manager who plays a completely different style of football, so I don't know how that's going to work. I think he might go with Cortez. I think if we're going to do that, sort of try and soak it up and play in the break, then you're wanting players with a bit of pace. I think he might go with Dessers as well, Ross. Someone that's proven in that arena. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes on Wednesday. I don't think it's done. I think it could be a wee bit more dramatic than you boys are suggesting. Hope I'm wrong. Obviously, if we get through, that guarantees a Europa. I mean, when you think everything that's happened at Rangers over the last few months, new owners, new manager, new players, new system, like a new beginning almost. I mean, I think it was always a big ask for us to get into the Champions League, especially when you consider we had that extra round. So I'm not hanging everything on getting into the Champions League. If I'm being honest, I kind of get the feeling that the club aren't either. I think they're looking at domestic success. That gives you access to the Champions League, and that's how you look at how Celtic have done it. I mean, they've had free access to that Champions League for a number of years now. That gives them the money to go out and essentially wrap up league after league and give them further access into that Champions League. So yeah, I don't think it would be the disaster that people are suggesting it would be if we don't get in, because there are so many people in that club that are just in the door. I mean, from the owners, board, coaching staff, manager, players. If we do qualify for the Champions League, that's some going, I would suggest, and that would deserve a lot of credit, and obviously it would come with the financial reward. So I'll take it one game at a time. If we get through on Thursday, brilliant. Wednesday. If we don't, then obviously we've got to qualify for the Europa, and we'll see where it takes us. But I don't think Thursday's as certain as you two guys make out. I didn't know until, I think it was after the game on Wednesday, no one has ever beaten Panathinaikos from Scotland. That's the first time the Scottish team's beaten them. I was like, no, we've beaten them before, but we didn't. We put them out in their away goals. So, it was a big result. When you consider how we played in the first half, you consider the amount of new players that are there playing a new system and a new style. Okay, we got the breaks. They've missed a couple of chances. The sending off makes a difference. It's a sending off that the young boy Curtis was heavily involved in, because he's done the boy and he's holding him down. And I think that gave Rangers the confidence to play the way that Russell Martin wants them to play. I think you saw that just because they had that wee bit extra space, all of a sudden, the patterns they play were working, and we've got the 2 goals. So yeah, we'll see where we end up on Wednesday night, but I think it'll be tense, to say the least.
Well, hopefully we can get the job done. But I mean, Panathinaikos, I remember playing them in the Champions League 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, the Beers Ibrox, yeah.
Aye, but to be fair, I think that game might have been the catalyst for us to go and sign Frank de Boer in the January. So I think Big Egg went, we need to shore up the defence after that. So he went and got Big Frank in to play with Ronald. But hopefully we'll do the job, mate. I think we will. I don't know. I can just see it being a bit of a drab sort of 0-0, get out of there and take it. I mean, even if it's a 1-0 defeat, you get through. All that matters is getting through and Wednesday getting the job done, and you'll take it anyway. Maybe not with penalties, I could do without that, to be fair. But if it is what happens, then what will be, as Doris famously said. Just before we finish up, guys, we will be back on Friday as well. I'm not sure who's going to be in the hot seat, but they'll be there to discuss Wednesday's match against Panathinaikos, where hopefully it's a good result and we get through, and also preview our season opener at Motherwell. All that's left for me now to do is thank my guests for joining me. Ross, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And Colin, thanks for joining me.
And likewise too. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all. Thanks to the viewers at home. We'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.